Well, welcome to another in my series of LinkedIn Live broadcasting on the subject of bids and tenders. Today I'm talking about developing social value bid answers. What do we mean by social value? What's the background to this? Well, it really came to prominence in the Social Value Act in 2012. This was also within the Scottish Procurement Reform Act of 2014 as well, and in Scotland these are called community benefits. It's all about organisations that are going to be awarded public sector contracts giving something back. So because they have got the contract, it's going to mean something, especially in the local communities that the contract is going to be delivered within. In layman's terms, we might say, for every £1 that the public sector spend, what additional value are they going to get from a social value or community benefits perspective? What is that pound going to achieve locally? In private sector proposals, it's often good, particularly when bidding to large organisations, to try to look at what they call their CSR, corporate social responsibility, and look at what the objectives that the organisation has, the sort of activities that they support from a charitable or community perspective, and then you're going to try and design offerings within what you're going to be delivering to link in with what their objectives are. Of course, in the public sector, it's going to be very similar with your social value offerings. They've got to be relevant to the organisation that you're bidding to. So, for example, if you're bidding to a local council, then they're going to be interested in offerings that take place within their area. They're going to be less interested if you're saying that the pounds that they're giving you are going to be spent in some other area, some other local authority area, then that is obviously not necessarily going to resonate with them. Similarly, if you're bidding to the National Health Service and you're bidding on a local basis to a local trust or a local board, then you'd be wanting to talk about your social value offerings being linked to health initiatives within that area as well. It would be fair to say that the social value offerings, we could perhaps look at them in three different ways. We can look at the economic ones that you might offer. We can look at environmental ones and societal ones. So the economic ones, I remember going to a Southeast England County Council meeting, a sort of tender briefing session, and the local authority there, or the county council, they said, let's be clear, with social value, for us, we know it means different things for different organisations and different bidders, but for us, it's all about local jobs. So what they'd done was they'd made things very, very clear that they were looking there for local jobs, apprenticeships to be delivered within their area. Now, that is helpful, actually, if the client organisation tells you exactly what they're looking for with the social value offerings. Quite often, though, it's a bit of a blank piece of paper, and they will actually say, well, it's up to bidders to propose what they're going to do. Well, how do you know what's of interest to that particular organisation? Perhaps easier if you're already delivering a contract, then you have a pretty good idea. But if you've not delivered a contract to them before, then you're going to have to do some digging around. Perhaps going to events that they're attending, meet the buyer sessions, certainly get into the information that's publicly available on their website, look at perhaps other contracts that have been awarded there, and if you can find out the social value offerings that were promised, and sometimes these will be contained within committee papers or within board papers if it's a housing association, and these are often found on the organisation's websites. The private sector, you'll be able to identify it through their annual reviews. They'll often be talking about their corporate social responsibility. So jobs and apprenticeships are something that are going to feature quite largely, particularly in the higher value contracts. It'd be good to think about jobs for young people, jobs for disadvantaged groups, jobs and opportunities for people that are maybe not in education, employment or training. And it's pretty good if you can tag on some kind of training offering within the jobs as well. When awarding contracts, what buyer organisations are concerned about is that they want to see some kind of legacy from the contract. So they don't want it to be like the circus. The circus comes to town, it entertains people, but then it leaves, and there isn't necessarily a legacy beyond that. So with a contract, especially if it's a multi-year contract, the client organisations are looking to see that there's going to be some kind of legacy from it as well. One example was an organisation that we were working with, one of our clients. They are house builders, and they were going to be doing a construction project for a local council. But they identified that in that particular area they were going to be working in, there was a real need for some community facilities, a small community hall for use by the local people. So what they did was they constructed their site office with the council's permission, and they built the site office, they built it to last, and they built it so as it could easily be adapted by them when they had finished the large development project that they were undertaking, that site office could be adapted and become the community hub for use by local people. Well, that was brilliant, because that then served a number of purposes, and it delivered on that legacy point, which is so important in your social value offerings. With the jobs and apprenticeships, there's even more though that I'd like to say about these. I would say it's vital that you tie this to contract or framework spend. So you don't want to be giving commitments that are not going to be backed up by equivalent spend from the client. So if the client delivers the spend that they say they're going to have through this contract or through the framework, and then you could tie your social value offerings to the contract spend. So for example, you might say for every £500,000 of contract spend, for every £1 million of contract spend, then we will deliver X number of jobs, X number of apprenticeships. It's good as well, if you're the incumbent contractor, to talk about the jobs that you perhaps are going to be able to sustain through the contract. That is important as well. But look as well for what new jobs, what new opportunities you're able to create. Now, it could be that you're a very large organisation. You perhaps have lots of apprenticeships, maybe even hundreds of apprenticeships going on in your organisation across the year. Will that give you a winning score on social value? Well, not necessarily, because as I mentioned, what the buying organisation is interested in is what is new. Because they award you this contract, what new jobs, what new apprenticeships, what new training opportunities are you going to provide? Giving guarantees in bids is important as well. And although I did just give you the caveat a minute ago here on this broadcast about developing social value bid answers, I gave you the caveat that you do want to tie your social value commitments to contract or framework spend, but then underline them with a guarantee. So for a framework spend of X, we will guarantee the delivery of X jobs or X apprenticeships. It would be good to bring it to life further as well. So it's maybe a 4-year contract. So you talk about the jobs or apprenticeships that are going to come throughout the contract. You're very specific. You maybe say in January 2021, we are going to have 2 new apprentices starting on this contract. They are going to go on 1 day a week at any town local college on day release. They are going to be on the bricklaying course. They are going to be on the electrician's course, a plumber, whatever. So you're actually being very specific. You've looked into it. You've looked into the fact that that college has got a course that's running then, that's got an intake. You're going to actually state when things are going to be happening. And particularly if you're tying this to local opportunities, local educational establishments, then your commitment is going to be even more warmly received by the buying organisation. It's good also to think about placements for students, placements for people at school, work placements, college placements, but perhaps it could be summer opportunities for college or university students, summer working opportunities. It could be mentoring, it could be shadowing that you're going to offer, but again, be really specific in what you're offering and when you're going to be offering it. So for example, if it's school placements that you're going to be providing, maybe 1 week long placements, when are they going to be given, to the pupils of which school, etc., or which schools. So again, this tailoring of your social value responses. Don't forget the hard to reach groups as well. Don't forget groups that might traditionally miss out. So that will be particularly important depending on the organisation that you're bidding to. So you're perhaps bidding to, if it was a housing organisation, for example, with a diverse tenant group, then you want to provide opportunities for some of their tenants to perhaps get a step into employment or a step into training. But you'd also have to show that you understand perhaps some of the barriers that could exist in a hard to reach group, and be able to evidence that you can actually reach them and how you're going to do it. And perhaps even better, what local community groups you're going to partner with. Because you know what? Collaboration is a great story within social value as well. It's great when the public sector are able to, because of the contracts they're awarding, be able to encourage collaboration with local community organisations, and that helps to build their capacity as well as they work with perhaps private sector organisations who are delivering public sector contracts. So there really is this virtuous circle going on here, which helps to deliver legacy as well. Environmental issues are ones that can be tackled through the social value offerings as well. So very interested to see what you're going to be able to deliver from the environmental perspective. So obviously carbon footprint comes to mind, energy efficiency, journey planning, virtual meetings, etc. And goodness, we've learned a lot about doing this and doing business during the COVID-19 era, which we think is going to have a lasting impact on the way things are done. Social benefits are also something with social value. So really being clear about how you can benefit society from having this contract. So what local groups are you going to work with? What local charities are you going to support? What kind of pro bono support can you perhaps give? So it could be that you're maybe, for example, a joinery business. Are you able to do some work on a pro bono basis for a local charity? Well, you'd want to name that charity within your bid. You'd want to have had a discussion with them. You want to make sure that you're delivering something that is meaningful for them, but also be clear on what the difference that is going to make for the local organisation. With charitable funding, perhaps you're going to match fund your employees' charitable giving. So this is an example where, again, we're interested, the buying organisation is going to be interested in what is new. So it's not just what what you do anyway. So maybe you have an annual charity fundraising day within your organisation. Well, that's good. But if all the benefits are going to a charity that perhaps is not really one that is within the local area or fits with this local organisation's priorities, then you maybe just need to think about that, and you may need to adjust accordingly or do something else as well. Often employees are happy doing charitable activity within their own spare time, maybe at weekends or something like that, and they're happy doing their own fundraising, but it's great when it can be matched by the employer. So again, is there scope to make some commitments around this within your social value offering? It's good, of course, if you can mention your track record in anything social value related, because that helps to give a bit of comfort that you will actually deliver what you say you will. Be thinking as well of the organisations that you're bidding to. So, for example, if you're bidding in the NHS, then societal social value offerings around health initiatives would go down very well. One organisation we were involved with helping with an NHS bid, we were thinking about, well, how could they actually do something that really would dovetail with what the NHS's priorities were? And we identified that funding advertising on local radio about health initiatives and health messages was actually a very good thing. And that was commended by the buyer, because this again helped this sort of virtuous circle with the social value offering, because the local radio stations are often almost charitable organisations themselves. They may be struggling for funding, and getting some advertising revenue in really helps the local radio stations to keep going, delivering the important services that they deliver on behalf of local residents. So that again was a strong example of a relevant social value offering that gave in effect more bang for the buck and helps as well with the capacity building and the whole legacy element too. There's lots of other things you could get involved in. You could get involved in community litter pickups, for example. That would go down well in the local community and would usually go down well with the client organisations as well. Now, many businesses have volunteering within their organisation. So they maybe allow their staff 1 day or maybe 2 days a year to volunteer for a charity or a social enterprise. So again, if your organisation has this, then what you would look to do is, if possible, you would look to use some of that resource that you have anyway or have committed anyway and use it on this contract. Use it as part of your social value offering. But again, the message is be really clear around the fact that it has to be relevant to the organisation that you're bidding to. It's important that you're gathering evidence all the time of what you're doing and what you're delivering. It's important too that when you're working out your bid and considering how you're going to present the social value element within your bid, that you perhaps use one of the social value calculators that are out there. That's quite an important thing, the social value calculators, because what they can do is they can help to work out what the pound value is of various initiatives and activities and the actual societal benefits coming from this spend as well. And that can help to actually boost your tender score. Just as I mentioned scoring, I think it's important in the clarification question stage of a bid, if it's not clear from the buyer issued documents, it's good to seek clarity on a number of things around social value. So you want to know how the social value is going to be reported on, the social value commitments that bidders are making and the successful bidder or bidders, how is it going to be reported on by them? How is the client organisation going to monitor their supplier? that they actually walk the talk, that they deliver the commitments that they said they would, and that they're actually getting tender scores for within the bid process. We know that bids can sometimes be won or lost on very, very small margins. And it could be that the bidder who's committed to the jobs or the apprenticeships or other social value spend, giving these commitments has helped them to win this contract. It might have been a deciding factor. Well, how sad it would be then if the buying organisation never did any monitoring or checking up on where these commitments actually delivered. And maybe another bidder has lost out who maybe wasn't going to promise quite so much, but was actually going to deliver it. Then the local organisations, the local people, the local communities, they lose out. And there's something very unfair in that type of tender process. Do you know what I think? That where there is social value within a bid, then I do believe that the buying organisations should not just be looking for reporting, for monitoring, but they should also be looking for penalties to for the suppliers to pay equivalent penalties if they do not deliver the social value. And obviously, if it's for circumstances completely out with their control, then that would be something for negotiation between the buyer and the supplier. But generally speaking, I think it would be great to see more use of penalties where social value is not delivered. And that would make as well for a fairer bidding process. I mentioned the importance of guaranteeing social value. So this is important for your bid to be thinking about what you're going to guarantee. So perhaps banish words like we will aim to, we will aspire to, we think we can, etc. That's not the language for bidding. What you want to be doing is you want to actually be guaranteeing social value and be prepared to stand behind the commitments you're making. So in terms of making links with organisations, this is very important. So what you want to be doing is you want to be providing tailored social value offerings that are relevant both to the buyer organisation and to the local communities in which they operate. So this can work best if you as a bidder have gone about and done a bit of due diligence in what's important to that buyer, what's important to the communities, what are the local issues, and what are the likely issues that are coming up. So with the economic crisis that has come about as a result of COVID-19, it's clear that there are going to be certain groups of people who are going to struggle in the job market, particularly young people that do not have experience necessarily of working. So anything you can be doing that is linking you with local organisations, local groups that are seeking to help young people into work and giving them opportunities, then that is something that is going to resonate very well with buyers. So remember, this localism agenda is very, very important for your social value offerings. So if you're bidding perhaps at distance, maybe you're an organisation that's based in London, bidding to the north of England or to Scotland, for example, then your social value offering would really have to be tailored to the area you're looking to work within. And that may involve quite a bit of activity. I can think of one large organisation that we've done work with, and we've actually gone to local areas. We've met local community organisations. We've discussed with them what help they're needing. We've got their backing, and that has been very helpful in getting not just high-scoring social value responses within your bids, but then once you've won the contract, actually delivering meaningful social value via the contracts that then becomes as well part of your track record, part that you're able to put within social value case studies, reference projects that you've got where you really have walked the talk. So In summary, bid specialists can also do a lot to help you design meaningful social value offerings that are going to resonate very well with the buying organisations. So we spend time with organisations looking at what they're doing in the social value arena and making a lot of recommendations. I've just made a few today on this broadcast, but I've got many, many more examples that I'm able to share with organisations that are interested in developing meaningful social value offerings. So let's summarise what we've said here. We've said that tailored, costed, measured, monitored, reported, delivered, committed social value offerings that really resonate with buying organisations because they are bespoke to their organisation, the communities that they're working in, addressing these issues, the economic, environmental, societal issues, and particularly where they can leave behind some kind of legacy. So they've provided meaningful training or meaningful jobs. Then these are the ones that are going to be high scoring within your bids. So tomorrow, I'm going to be on LinkedIn Live at 4 p.m. tomorrow, and I'm going to be talking about the subject of pricing, how to tackle pricing within your bids. And I look forward to seeing you on the broadcast or perhaps your comments afterwards.